Hello gamers, this is Loco Diablo and this is Dante's Inferno, where I talk about all things role-playing, and today's topic is about the GM screen. Now I've got a few examples over here. So what a GM screen is it's basically a wall between you and your players. So the idea is any type of notes that you might have, any type of, when you open up books, any type of encounters, any type of dice rolling that you need to do, and you don't want your players to be able to see it. And sometimes that's important to be able to do. Like if you're rolling something and you roll like crap, then they're gonna know like the counter is gonna be a certain way, But if you hide the roll, you prevent them from knowing one way or another. And it's especially great when it comes to any type of resistive type checks. If they're like intimidating, and you roll to see if they intimidated, if it requires the roll, and if they see that you failed, then they might know that the person's been lying, or whatever. They'll change their role playing based on that. So it's kind of important to sometimes use these things. Now it's also to create a theme. So all GM screens will have like a theme based on it. So right, this is the World of Darkness GM screen, and so it's supposed to look real scary and gothic, and it does help with that. Here I've got the the Songs of Fire and Ice, Songs of Ice and Fire. You got kind of this creates like a theme, and it helps with the visual effects of that. What it's like to be inside the GM screen. Basically, this is what they basically see. Now, it is just filled with notes. And this helps prevent the GM from having to stop the game and interrupt the story, so that he's not flipping through. And now when it comes to GMing, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is when I see a GM flip through the book just for an abnormally long time. The way my rule of thumb is, whenever I GM, that if it takes longer than a minute to look up in a book, I make it up. I take the best difficulty that I can think of at the time. I take the best skill combination that I think of at the time. I take, when it comes to weapon damage, I'll take like the closest style feel on it, and I move the story along so the story moves like slowly moves. So these notes are actually quite important. Generally, they put the most complicated areas of the game inside the GM screen. Now my first encounter with the GM screen, I don't know who first started it, but every game pretty much has copied it. I'm assuming that was probably Dungeons & Dragons that did it, but my first encounter with the GM screen was with White Wolf. And back then, I was a sucker with the products. I bought all the products, that any new products I would pick up, and some of our players did the exact same thing. So at time when we first started playing White Wolf, everybody on the table had a GM screen. Everybody on the table, we all had GM screens. We would use it to almost like hide our character sheets. And the only person who did not have a GM screen was, in fact, the GM. And eventually he got pretty pissed off and, banned the GM screen from the table. Because he felt like there should only be one, and rightfully so, there should only be one GM screen, and he's the one who needs it. But for a period of time, we would all be sitting in, like, these were like all little walls, protecting from players from like looking at our character sheets or looking at whatever. So a period of time, there was like all the players had a freaking GM screen, and that's how we would role play. Um, okay, some of the GM screens that I got now, and I gotta point out that I rarely do I use a GM screen. Um, when you've done this hobby long enough, most of these roles and notes you just don't need anymore. And I find myself I need to be more mobile than to necessarily hide things, and I don't really, when it comes to NPC, I generally, sometimes I don't even roll for the NPCs. I take basically what their skill is, and the only real roles I'll have is the players will roll, basically determining if if they're trying to intimidate someone, they'll make a roll. If I feel that success would beat this person's personality, I just accept it. Or in situations like that. Now, when it comes to like soaking, obviously I'm gonna like make a roll on that. But at a certain point, I don't even bother with the soak if I feel like the attack just straight up just kills the player, kills the NPC. I'll just describe it as though the person's dead. So rarely do I like really need the GM screen. However, I'm still kind of a sucker. Whenever I get into a new game, I always do pick up the GM screen. If anything, how I'll use it is I'll just use it for more like note taking, or just like little notes that I have. And it does great, and especially with the new ones. They generally have now moved from a soft little flimsy piece to like a nice hardcover. So they are great to have stand up and take notes on and stuff like that. But I do have them. So here's some of the GM screens I've got. I've got more, but these were the ones I just found. Just right now, I got Your World of Darkness one. I obviously picked that up when I picked up the New World of Darkness. I've got the Song of Fire and Ice. I picked this up when I got into the game of that, of the Game of Thrones. So, I got the Vampire. Um, I got all the World of Darkness stuff. But this one is perhaps, I'm going to talk more about this a little bit later. Just in comparison to how GM screens look now, and the storyteller screens, is they've gotten a lot better. My feeling is feel like they've kind of gotten a little bit bigger. They've often were only like 3 pages, and now they've gotten wider to really support having to open up a book. They've got much more harder, and it's gone right across the table. I mean, every game GM screen has improved. I mean, this is Song of Fire and Ice. I mean, even this is like a hardcover, but back in the day, they were all pretty much just little flimsy little pieces of cardboard. You gotta close these a certain way at times. The artwork on there have gotten a lot better. They've moved, they've taken much more care in creating a theme in the front of them. So artworks have gotten a lot better. I mean, these are, and the insides, they're definitely much more durable than they used to be. And I would say White Wolf has got some of the best GM screens out there. I've seen some of the Pathfinder stuff. I don't own the Pathfinder GM screen other than the PDF one, and the Pathfinder one looks pretty good too. It's a pretty big screen. And artwork on the front is pretty important. So I'm going to show you some of the artwork. Here's the Game of Thrones GM screen. Now this one is a a 3-page. However, it's wider than most of the GM screens. So I'll show you in comparison. So as you can see, it's much wider. And that can be important. Because of that, though, you gotta like fold it a certain way in in order to close it. You know, we have obviously the World of Darkness. If you can see the artwork on here, it's it's meant to create a theme on the side, and in a way it does help to create like an authority between the GM and the players. So it does help in that manner too, even if it's just a psychological one. So here's the Requiem GM screen. And I would love to see White Wolf create a GM screen for their new World of Darkness. However, I don't feel that they will. Not New World of Darkness. I meant to say their V20 line. I don't feel that they will because of the print on demand situation. So this is some of the artwork to help create like a theme behind it. And now I'm going to talk about this. This is more of my favorite GM screen. This is the one when I do use a GM screen, this is the one that I mostly use. These others, to be honest, had them kind of packed away. I haven't used them in years. This one I use quite a bit. This is the Savage World Custom GM screen. Now, you can, if you want, create let's just talk about the wideness of it. It is very wide. It's only three pages, but it's quite wide in comparison to it's even a little bit wider than the Game of Thrones, and it's also even taller. It's not taller than the World of Darkness ones, but it's still good. It has like little sleeves, almost like folder style sleeves. So the idea is with this is you'll print a page. You take your PDFs, you print a page, okay, and then you basically just slide it in. Now it gets a little tight on here, but it does fit in, quite nicely. The idea is you print the pages that you're gonna want, and also with the Savage World they do sell GM screens specifically for this. So you'll have the artwork in the front. But what I really use it for is I take the rules that I have trouble with, or that I know I'm gonna have to be looking up, and I just print those pages and I slide them in. Now when it comes to the PDFs, I really liked the PDFs, and there was a period of time where I took my books and I sold most of them and went to the PDF format. The idea was really to save space, and the idea is also if I needed a particular book, I could look it up. Most of the time I'm not going to use all the books for the game. They're really more for like more research prior to the game. Obviously some of the rule books that I would need, but the PDFs it was a big draw for me to get into the PDFs. So for this was perfect, because if there was anything that I particularly needed, I could slide it in. Now because it's only 3, you have less rules though. However, you have the whole front side too. So really I got 6 pages that I can in fact use these for notes. I can if I'm looking for a particular, right now I've got like pages for the Pathfinder. Now this is not the PDF version of the Pathfinder screen, GM screen. This is just actual pages out of the Pathfinder book. that if I need, like I'll have experience. Like right here, I've got, the experience chart. I've got, weapons on here. I got things like, skills, size, anything I really want. In any time, I feel like if I need it in that particular game, I can just print it up and put it in. Now this is for the Savage World, but you can honestly use this for anything. Savage World has really moved their GM screens to be PDF format, and I don't know if they sell hard GM screens, but they've really tried to move into that market for the PDF for the GM screen. So this is the Savage World customizable GM screen. It goes for, on their website for $30, $29.99, and a little high priced in comparison to normal GM screens. Back in the day, the GM screens, when they were flimsy, probably went for about $10, or maybe a little bit less if you got them at a discount. These generally go for, I don't know if there's, I'm just going to show the price on them. Generally, the harder things probably go for about $15. But this is probably my favorite because I can really use this for really any game. And I just print out what I need. And since I'm a big PDF fan, this is actually quite perfect. Now, again, if the Savage World does sell they do sell inserts for these for their other games, and they are cheaper. The inserts will probably, I think they run less than $5. I think they're more like $3.99 or something along that lines. But pretty much every one of their lines will have a GM like inserts that are made to slide in, and they will have the customizable artwork. But because generally I don't actually set them up like this and hide behind them when I'm GMing, I really just use them for notes. Things that will help me prevent me from having to go back into in the books. But over time, you generally memorize these rules. So I rarely do I use like a GM screen. However, as a GM, as a storyteller, I will know what the story is prior to role playing. So prior to doing the game, so I will make sure that I have in this particular story what I need. If I wanted to have like rules on character creation, if I'm doing a game for the first time, or if I know there's going to be new players, I will fill this up with character creation rules. If I know there's going to be heavy XP, I'll make sure I'll have the XP rules. If I know there's going to be fire in the story, if I know like the story is going to involve like a house on fire, I'll make sure I'll have fire or falling damage on there. So it is something that I use prior. I can set up, and it's quite easy. You just find the page on the PDF and print it out. And if I absolutely have to, I can like photocopy the particular page and just slide in the insert. This is also quite, you also can write on this, obviously not with a pen, but if you got a dry erase marker, you can obviously write on this as well. So this is a great idea. Plus it's lighter than holding a book, so you can if you need to hold up a page, or if you need like a clipboard, this will act like that. So it's really, this is something that this is the GM screen for all GMs. This is the one-stop thing, just due to the versatility of I can use it for any game that I want. And really, that's it for my GM video, my GM screen video. Thank you for watching, and this is Local Diablo reminding you the devil's in the details. Goodbye.